It is the top of the hour. I'm Nichole Berlie, live at our NewsNation headquarters in Chicago, giving you a live look there at the markets, because in just moments, for the first time in 9 months, the Federal Reserve is expected to cut interest rates, ushering in lower borrowing rates for millions of consumers and businesses. You can see on your screen the markets reacting in anticipation of this decision. Traders anticipating what's next in all of it. Now, Fed Chair Jerome Powell is set to speak on the decision in the next 30 minutes or so, giving many the chance to hear what the policy outlook could look like for the remainder of this year. Any kind of rate cut has a wide impact on your wallet. Things from credit cards, car loans, the U.S. national debt, mortgages, bonds, putting businesses and consumers really in control of what they are borrowing. And it comes as President Trump has been putting immense pressure on Fed Chair Powell to cut those rates much lower than today's anticipated cut, even threatening to fire him numerous times. And we've just received word that they have, in fact, lowered it by a quarter point. NewsNation's Alicia Nieves live for us on the New York Stock Exchange floor there. Alicia, so we just getting this news. What is the impact of this decision?
Yeah, Nicole, I can tell you, people here on the floor, traders, were screaming the moment this came out just a few seconds ago. A lot of them hoping for a 0.5% rate cut. We did get the more modest 0.25% rate cut. And that's really because while the Fed has to be concerned about the labor market, right, and trying to stimulate the labor market with this rate cut, there is still the lingering concern about inflation and the inflationary pressures that a rate cut naturally brings. And so you're seeing the Fed, at least ahead of Fed Chair Powell speaking in about 30 minutes from now, seem to be a little more measured with this cut, which is kind of in consensus with what we were expecting, especially in consensus with some of the experts that we talked to who gave us 90% probability that we get this more modest rate cut, who said this is probably going to be a test run for the Fed for the start of potential rate cuts throughout the rest of this year, maybe even going into next year, to do a more modest 0.25% rate cut, see what happens with inflation there, then come October, decide if the labor market is still weakening to then maybe get a little bit more aggressive. I will say, though, with this rate decision, all board members, FOMC members, 11 of them at least, voted for the 0.25% rate cut. The only dissenting member was that new appointee by President Trump, Stephen Murin, who wanted a more aggressive cut. Again, that is not what happened today. We got what the market was expecting, this 0.25% rate cut. But it is notable, the first rate cut for investors, for consumers, for companies this year, starting to be in line with what the president wants, a more accommodative stance for the Fed, a stance where we start to spur the economy and try and help the labor market that has been struggling over the last couple of months. Nicole?
Yeah, and you talked about that new appointee there to the board. Alicia, we know the president has been aggressive with really trying to gain a majority on the Fed. What kind of influence has he had on today's decision?
Hey, I talked about this all morning. Stephen Murin, chief advisor when it comes to economic policy for President Trump, was just confirmed on Monday to be a part of the FOMC, to be a board governor. We were expecting that he was going to try and influence the board, at least some members, to vote, with him to have that more aggressive rate cut. But, based on the release here, he's the only one that dissented, the only one who voted for that more aggressive rate cut. Even Waller and Bowman, two Fed governors, who were appointed by President Trump, siding with Fed Chair Powell and the broader FOMC to take it easy, to start these rate cuts, but be a little bit more modest, given the lingering concern with inflation. So, the president has had some influence via Stephen Murin, but clearly not anywhere close to the majority that he has wanted. Nicole?
All right, Alicia Nieves live for us there in New York. Alicia, thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.